Unlike maps in Team Fortress such as Two Fort and Well, which have their respective blue and red sides, Hydra's 4 main arenas can be owned by one team or the other. We needed an overall theme that justified structures like rock walls and tunnels, but which also had a neutral color scheme. We chose a desert theme with a palette of a reddish-brown rock, cool blue sky, and neutral light colors that complement the surrounding area. The colors of the separate areas vary slightly, but still key together.
Multiplayer communities tend to focus on a small group of maps, playing them over again and again. Instead of producing a large number of maps, most of which would go unplayed, we decided to try and build a single map with more innate replayability than any we'd built before. With most multiplayer maps, you know what you'll be doing before the map is even finished loading. In our case, we wanted a map where you couldn't even predict something as basic as your starting point, let alone what you'd be doing when you got there. This map, Hydro, therefore begins with a randomized starting state. The emphasis on control of constantly shifting territories means the map rarely feels repetitive. Meanwhile, the explicit round structure keeps teams focused and provides regular highs and lows as the teams gain and lose territory.
Maps require impassable boundaries, but unless we restrict the environments to either interior spaces or steep canyons, these boundaries can't always block the player's view of the outlying unreachable area. In our more realistic titles like Half-Life 2, these boundaries often require fictional or visual explanations. In the heavily stylized world of Team Fortress 2, however, conspicuous artificiality is a core design principle, and so we can simplify or altogether ignore these explanations without compromising the player experience. Playtesting showed, for instance, that these low fences leading to an empty expanse successfully conveyed the message that the area beyond the fence is uninteresting and out of bounds. This area presented a difficult problem. Since the arena is primarily an interior, there wasn't much we could do to alter its basic structure, so we concentrated on careful management of the interior shapes to create an iconic space. The building is essentially a box with big rectangular windows, contrasted by round elements, such as the generators, in the center. To create depth and parallax, we added linear elements such as railings and cables. We used contrasting values of dark and light on the floor with brightly lit walkways to create an interesting value pattern. All these elements work together to draw the player's eye to the flag, which must always be the focal point of the arena.
One of the main changes between Team Fortress Classic and Team Fortress 2 was the removal of thrown grenades. Most classes could carry a standard hand grenade along with a secondary grenade, tied more closely to the class. Team Fortress 2's focus on unique class roles led us to notice that the standard hand grenade was a more powerful combat decider than some of the primary weapons. This made the classes more similar in combat, not a desired effect. In addition, when we look at some of the Team Fortress Classic's map stalemates, they often resulted from large amounts of grenade spam. Two cases were particularly problematic. That of players throwing grenades repeatedly through doorways, hoping to kill an enemy who might be there, and players on the verge of death throwing all their grenades in rapid succession, hoping to get a kill after they die. Removing standard hand grenades made the game more fun almost immediately, especially for new players who were often confused as to why they die when a grenade went off at their feet. When we examined the class-specific grenades, we found similar problems. Eliminating them from playtests gave us yet another boost in making the game more fun. Once we decided on removal, we analyzed each class to see what capabilities might have been lost as a result of the decision. In some cases, we added other capabilities, where we felt a class had lost the ability to make some interesting decisions related to a special grenade type.
The more your art direction can use well-understood visual representations, the less work you have to do to explain your game elements. The earliest version of Team Fortress 2 had a heavily realistic art direction. As time went on, we found this was causing us a lot of issues. The differences between our player classes were hard to expose satisfactorily. Weapons firing anything other than bullets were hard to visualize. Our maps didn't make a lot of sense in the real world, where two opposing forces rarely build bases within 50 feet of one another. In addition, the game wasn't visually distinct from our other products. A stylized world had none of these problems. For instance, put the massive heavy next to the pinstripe-suited spy, and players understand both the numerical health differences between the classes and their very different gameplay styles. The medic's healing beam was easily understood by playtesters when they saw the floating red plus symbols streaming into the target. A stylized fiction can easily explain why the team's bases are built right next to each other. Finally, a Team Fortress 2 screenshot is easily recognizable, ensuring that no one will confuse it with another one of our games.
The announcer for Team Fortress 2, Ellen McLean, has the rare distinction of being the only voice actor to perform in all the products in the orange box. For a role in Team Fortress 2, we had Ellen try various reads on the same lines, letting her ad-lib different personalities. On the 5th try, she came up with the winner. Her disappointed and slightly angry evil overlord clearly lets you know, in the world of Team Fortress 2, a tie does not mean everyone wins, but that everyone loses.